Today is May Day. Today is the 1st of May, year 2007. We are in the capital of Croatia. We are in Zagreb. I'm going to give a lecture about the world situation and the future. I have been invited to give this lecture in Zagreb by Davorin Gruden, who has translated several of Martinus' books into Croatian. And before him, some 10-15 years ago, Martin Marinkovic translated a lot of Martinus' books into Serbian language. And now here in Zagreb, there also is a book publishing company called Teledisc, and they have been so kind to print several of Martinus' books in Croatian language. And to my knowledge, my lectures here in city, they are the first public lectures about Martinus cosmology in Croatia. So it is interesting to experience this pioneer atmosphere in Zagreb. Yes, tonight I would like to talk about the world situation and the future. And it's also a very special day today, isn't it? It's the 1st of May, where normally the communists and the socialists are having their international day of the year. So I think it's a good title to talk about the world situation and the future, exactly on the 1st of May. And I will talk about the world situation in the light of Martinus' cosmology. And Martinus think that planet Earth is a living being. And in order to understand the world situation, you should understand that planet Earth is a living being. Some biologists might also think that the planet Earth could be a living being because normally human beings have the same temperature, 37 degrees. They are able to keep this temperature constant. But also our planet for maybe 2-3 billion years, it have had a constant temperature. Also, the concentration of salt in our blood is constant, but also the concentration of salt in the oceans have been constant for 3-4 billion years. You could also say it is as if the Earth is breathing. It is as if the planet Earth has lungs, because of the photosynthesis. Then the plants can absorb carbon dioxide, and they can release the oxygen. So there is also a kind of breathing. We are doing the opposite in our lungs. We are taking in oxygen and we are breathing out carbon dioxide. Some are also calling the rainforests for the lungs of planet Earth. And we also have a blood circulation, and there's so many things that circulate in our body. And if you go to the biology and study ecology, you will also see there's a lot of cycles in nature. There's a cycle of water, cycle of carbon, cycle of nitrogen, and so on. So you see the same cycles. And you could even say that the planet Earth is also eating. But what is the planet Earth eating? We are living beings, and we have to have food in order to have energy. But the planet Earth gets its food from the sun. You could say that it is eating sun matter, because the energy for the photosynthesis comes from the sunshine, from visible light. And then this life is transformed into chemical energy in the plants. And then the plants get energy, and then the animals are eating the plants. So they can, without sunshine, there would be no plants, no animals on planet Earth. You could make many analogies, which makes it look as if planet Earth also is a living being. I guess the biologists, they have a lot of criteria for a living being. I guess the only one they're a little bit doubtful according to their ordinary criteria, that is the sexual reproduction. How can the planets copulate and get small planets and planet offspring? But apart from that, they could regard the planet Earth as a living being. And we are living beings. We have an organism that consists of living organs that are built up by living cells, by living molecules. And Martinus even thinks that the solar system is a living being, the galaxy is a living being. Groups of galaxies is a living being. He thinks the whole universe is a living being, and it is constructed of living beings that are constructed by living beings. So in order to understand the world situation, you should understand it is not terrestrial man who decides the world situation. Actually, it is the planet Earth itself as a living being that is deciding how things should develop. And Martinus, he has described 7 spiral cycles, or 7 parts in the evolution. And the smallest living beings he has described, that is the physical matter, that is molecules and atoms in this spiral. Then he thinks cells are individual living beings in this spiral cycle, the second spiral cycle. And in this third spiral cycle, we have the organs that are living beings. And here in the fourth, we have the organisms. And these small white figures represent the principle of reincarnation. And the spirals over us, that is the spiral cycle of the planets, of solar systems, and of the galaxy. And light indigo color, that is the beginning in the mineral kingdom. And the red part, that is the plant kingdom. And the orange area, that is the animal kingdom. And then there is a yellow part here, which is the coming the coming real human kingdom. We say that we are human beings, but we are half animal, half human beings. We are still very egoistic. There's a lot of wars and crises. So it would be natural that a plant organism consists of plant organs that consist of plant cells. An animal organism is constructed from animal organs and animal cells. And that means that the planet Earth is also a living being. The planet Earth has a brain. And according to Martinus, these 6 billion people on planet Earth now is the brain of the planet Earth. So planet Earth has 6 billion brain cells. And you could also say all the water and circulation of the water, that is the blood of the sun, the blood of planet Earth. If in the past there have been some high cultures, these cultures represent the thoughts of planet Earth. So that's also interesting. You could say, maybe you could accept that planet Earth is a living being, but what are the planet Earth thinking? What are the planet Earth doing? That is more difficult to understand. But all the different cultures on planet Earth is representing the different thoughts of planet Earth. So if you should try to understand the evolution of the planet Earth, you should also understand the evolution of human beings. When the human beings, we are human beings, but we are not perfect human beings. We are half animal and half human beings. In the same way you could say, okay, the planet Earth is constructed by human beings, but also, of course, of other animals and the plant kingdom, but we are sort of the brain of planet Earth. So planet Earth is also half human being and half animal. So we are wanting to become real human beings. We are trying to avoid to kill others, to be egoistic. We are trying to practice neighborly love, to be good and nice and healthy and practicing neighborly love. So planet Earth is trying to do the same thing. And there was one special lecture where Martinus was making analogies between the planet Earth and a human being. For example, if a human being is very angry with another human being, it can be some man, he's very angry with his neighbor, and his neighbor has done something terrible, but he cannot forgive him. And then he goes around and he's very angry, he cannot forgive. But Martinus think that it is not healthy to have these negative thoughts. You are going around being angry. That's not good for the health. And actually, when you have such bad thoughts, it is damaging certain organs. So this organ doesn't feel well because you don't treat it in the right way. And then all the small cells in the organ is also treated in a bad way. So in a way, I am deciding how the conditions are in my different organs and in the different cells. But in the same way, planet Earth is a living being. Maybe it's a little bit difficult to imagine, but if you could imagine that planet Earth could communicate with other planets, with electromagnetic waves, then our planet should also be able to get angry with other planets, just like we can get angry with other human beings. But if the planet Earth is getting angry, that is also hurting some organs, and that is also hurting some cells. So, for example, if there is a country where there is a dictatorship, and the citizens, they are suffering very much from this dictator, then normally people say that the dictator, he is the cause to all the problems. Or normally you say, Hitler, he was the cause of the Second World War. He was the one who caused all this damage. But Martinus would say, no, actually he is planet Earth who is deciding. But within the last maybe 50 or 100 years, we have had a lot of dictatorships here on planet Earth. There have been a lot of countries where we had a dictatorship. But then it was Papa Dog, and I don't know what they're called, all of them. But it is as if one dictatorship after the other is falling, which hopefully should give better conditions for the countries and also for the people living in the countries. And that means that the planet Earth is trying to forgive its enemies. So when planet Earth is forgiving other planets, it is having more positive thoughts, which gives better conditions in the different countries. So in the same way, if I'm angry, I can create dictatorship in my own organism, which is very bad for the micro-individuals. But I could also be kind and forgive, and that would improve the conditions for the micro-individuals in my body. So in the same way, it is not President Bush, it is not Hitler, it is not the Soviet Union, it is not the Muslims or United States that are really deciding over the world situation. It is the planet Earth itself that decides how the world situation is. And in general, you could say that the world situation has improved because there is less and less dictatorships and there are more and more democracies. There is one little book translated into Croatian. It is The Ideal Food. And actually Martinus is writing a little bit about World War I and World War II. He writes in this book that the planet Earth could get a little bit angry or get a little bit irritated. But when planet Earth is getting irritated, we experience it as World War. So World War I and World War II, it's not the Germans that are responsible for World War I and II. It is the planet Earth that has been a little bit irritated. But in a way that we could say that planet Earth also had thoughts. So in a way, planet Earth, the spirit of planet Earth is a kind of guardian angel for the different countries. So the planet Earth is also using a tool. For example, if the planet get a little bit angry, this will have the consequence that there will be a war. And then we need a Napoleon, we need a Hitler in order to put this war out into practice. That means, for example, that Napoleon or Hitler are tools. They are the best tools for planet Earth to do this. But on the other hand, they are not marionettes. I mean, Napoleon went to war because he liked to be a big warrior, a big hero. So that was the personal wish of Napoleon. But it was also the personal wish of planet Earth. And for that reason, it worked so good, because in a way, Napoleon was supported by the planet Earth. They would the same thing. Many people believe that it is kings and presidents who decide about the world policy. But according to Martinus, it is the consciousness of the planet Earth who elects all the presidents and emperors. So if, for example, there is an election or some political change, the one who is coming into charge and into the government is selected by the planet Earth. Martinus often mentioned when Kennedy was killed and Anwar Sadat were killed, that they were sort of too progressive, that politics were in front of the evolution of the planet Earth, so they had to be taken out. So it is the planet Earth that elects all presidents and all emperors. Also, sometimes you see a country turn into a superpower. It might look as if it was by chance that it was bad weather that day when the war was fought or something like that. But it is also planet Earth Who decides which countries are going to be superpowers and which are not? Which national cultures are going to grow and which are not? Which are to decline or degenerate? It's all of this is just a result of the consciousness of the planet Earth. And Martinus points out even climate changes are due to processes in the consciousness of the planet Earth. There's a big debate about the climate catastrophe, about the carbon dioxide destroying the atmosphere. The planet Earth is heating up, but it is not the human beings who are deciding about the climate of the planet Earth. It is the planet Earth itself that decides about the climate. It's very, very little that we can do. There's a lecture where Martinus points out that earthquakes, volcano explosions, and so on is result of processes in the consciousness of planet Earth. It is a kind of nerve reactions. So when something dramatic is going on in the consciousness of planet Earth, you would see many climate records and many anomalies in the climate. So when there are weather records and climate records, it's a sign of that there's something dramatic going on in the consciousness of planet Earth. And as I said, planet Earth is now cleansing out. It is going from animal kingdom into real human kingdom. There is death cramps and birth pangs. It's very dramatic to die, and there's also pains accompanied to being born. So there's a very big change. This is a very dramatic change in the consciousness of planet Earth. And for that reason, we will also see so many weather records, strange things in the climate, and we will even see wars. But it is a sign of the cleansing of the consciousness of planet Earth. Planet Earth is developing into a really human being. And could also be, for example, if the planet Earth decided, now I will become a better human being, I will start to practice neighborly love and so on, then Buddha, Muhammad and Jesus, they can reincarnate. And they had a big success. They got millions and millions of people who through centuries have been inspired by these world redeemers or big prophets. And they have had an enormous success. Why have these religions have had such a success? Because it has been helped from the whole spiritual world, because the spiritual world is the thought of planet Earth. So the planet Earth wanted to be more humane. And when the planet Earth is in such a mood, it wants to be more humane, then the humane religions are growing. But if there is a process where it's a little bit sort of angry, so when for example the planet Earth want to be more humane, Jesus and Buddha were good tools to introduce this. They were good tools. For example, we have had these primitive religions in Denmark with Odin and Thor. They're very primitive. The religions of the Vikings were very primitive. But they had a big success at that time because planet Earth was more primitive at that time. If I would start to preach these Viking religion today, it would have no success because this religion is not supported by the consciousness of planet Earth. Planet Earth has come farther. So nowadays, for example, also if you want to teach spiritual science or practice a science for neighborly love, this will have a much bigger success because now it's supported by planet Earth. And planet Earth is in a place in the evolution, just like human beings, where they can start to work consciously with their own evolution. There are many people today who want to become better. They would like to do a job on their personal evolution. They would like to be more lovable. They would like to practice neighborly love. They are working with themselves. And in a way they're trying to cleanse themselves, to get rid of all the animal instincts, of all the animal egoism. And they're trying to be more kind and humane, and they're meditating and praying and practicing. They're doing a lot of things to stimulate the humane side in consciousness, and they're trying to get rid of the egoistic animal side. And I guess also yesterday I mentioned this with the pyramid, and there is this mysterious sculpture with the sphynx. It's a huge sculpture. It has a humane face of a human being, and it has the body of an animal, and it's a very mysterious sculpture. But according to Martinus, it is a symbol of terrestrial man. Terrestrial man is half human being, half animal. But it's also a picture of the world situation, and it's also a picture of the planet Earth, half human being and half animal. But now the planet Earth has decided to cleanse itself from the animal tendencies. And then it is so strange for us to see that actually the planet Earth can cleanse its consciousness through wars. Because normally people think wars is very bad and you shall do everything to avoid wars. Of course you shall do that. But wars do not take place in vain. The wars are producing a result. And the result is that people who have suffered a hell in war, maybe they don't want to go to war anymore. After each war, there are a lot of people who say, now I don't want to go to war anymore. But there are also still who want to go to war. I know there were many people after World War I who said, I will never go to war again. In the trenches, they lived a hell for 3, 4, 5 years, and they said they would never go to war anymore. And after World War II, there were a lot of people who said they wouldn't go to war anymore. After the Korea War, the Vietnam War, the war in Iraq, for every war there are some people who don't want to go to war anymore. In one lecture, Martinus said, in the past there were young men, they were soldiers, they were wounded, they were killed, they died, they reincarnated, they were born again, they became soldiers, they went to war, they were wounded, they were killed, they died, they came back, the next reincarnation, they were born again, they were wounded, they were killed, and they will have to experience that a lot of times. But a certain day you say, I don't want to go to war anymore, I don't want this hell. But then you are this dissertation, if you say, I don't want to do my military service, sometimes in some countries they say, okay, then we'll kill you. But then Martinus says, every single living being on this planet Earth shall come to such a state where he says, I don't want to kill anybody, I don't want to go to war, then we'll have to kill you. And he'll say, that's okay, you can kill me. I don't want to kill other people, but if you want to kill me, please, you can do it. That was exactly what Jesus did on the cross. And all living beings should come to the same pacifism as Jesus Christ. And also when you were hidden on one side, you should turn the other cheek. That means that you should always turn the humane side to the animal side from the others. And Martinus is talking about the law of protection. And that means if you can go to war, and if you can kill others, even though you're defending your country, if you can go to war and kill others, you are not protected against getting killed. You can kill others. But the others, maybe they also have a wife and children that are becoming unhappy. Then you're not protected. But if there is a person who says, I don't want to kill others, you can kill me if you want, maybe he will be killed, but then he will only be killed once. And maybe he would not even be killed. Then you are protected through your own aura. You cannot become killed. And I think that is really just. It is a just law. But you get such a force field or such an aura around you. If you're a total pacifist, it's a natural law. Then you cannot become killed. But nowadays, when we have this materialism and you believe in one life, you think you can protect yourself if you have the strongest army here on earth. It was interesting with the United States, they have the strongest army of all. But even though there was the 9th September and they could shoot down these 2 big towers, and it is impossible to build up a defense or army that is so strong that you have got a total 100% protection. The onlyest way of protection that works 100%, that is to practice neighborly love. That is to do like Jesus Christ. And sort of, if there was a country who did that, that country would invisibly, through spiritual laws, be totally protected. You can only protect yourself if you stop the arms race, if you stop to kill others. And I shall not talk so much about it, but Martinus has also talked about the ideal food, and when you are eating meat, you are also the cause to the killing of the animals. So if you really want protection against accidents and war. You should become a vegetarian and you should become a 100% pacifist. Then you would get this protection. And in the Bible they are talking a lot about doomsday, about Armageddon, apocalypse, the last time, the day of judgment, and so on. And Martinus thinks this is not a doomsday, it's not one day, it is a period in the history. And he said this epoch of doomsday started with World War I, and it continued with World War II. And he thinks that we would need at least 2 more world wars, if that would be enough, in order to turn the majority of the human beings into really pacifists. So doomsday maybe is some 200, 300, 400 years where there can be this war. But a doomsday, there is the sheep and the goats. And the sheep is the pacifists. And the goats, they are those who want to fight. And then on doomsday, is it Jesus or God is sitting on his throne, and then all shall come. And then the goats shall go to the left and the sheep to the right, which means those sheep who are going to the right, they are saved. But the goats who are going to the left, they are sort of going to hell or being killed. And Martinus says this is a symbol of the attitude of the human beings. Those human beings who protect the others, they are sheep. And they will be protected at doomsday. That means, Martinus says, they don't have to be afraid of war because they are protected. But then there are the others who can go to war, who can kill us. They are the goats. They are not protected. And we are all going to become Christ beings or godlike beings. We are going to become 100 perfect cosmic beings, which in all situations would practice neighborly love just like Jesus Christ did. So we will all have, in order to become the same, we will have to experience the same. So there is no shortcuts to perfection. We will all have to experience the same amount of sufferings. But there is some, they have already had a lot of sufferings, and they have become pacifist and very loving. And there are some, they have not had so much suffering. So those who have not had so much suffering yet, they need to have some more sufferings. And the coming world wars are only meant for these people who need more suffering to develop more compassion and feeling for others. So in a way, people shouldn't be afraid of world wars, because those who are protected, they shouldn't be afraid about it. And the world wars or the sufferings, they are necessary for these people in order to turn into pacifists. Why is that necessary? Well, for 2,000 years, Christianity has been preached. And it has been preached that you should do just like Jesus Christ did. But what has the result become? The result has become that after 2,000 years, the Christian countries are the best warriors of this planet. There is no other countries that have so good bombs and missiles and soldiers as the Christian countries. It is not to criticize the Christian countries, but that just shows that it is not enough just to preach it. In Denmark, sometimes you say, if you won't listen, you will have to feel it. I mean, sometimes if it doesn't help to teach and preach, life will take other methods into account. Then you have to feel it. So for that reason, those who have not yet had so much sufferings, they need to have more sufferings. And if they have not had so much sufferings, they can also cause a lot of suffering to others. So it sounds strange, but the wars are factories that are producing pacifists. And sometimes I get very depressed when I saw the war in the Balkans or the war in Vietnam or the war in Iraq and all these terrorists. And you get so depressed when you see all this killing in television. And there's a lot of people, they get a little bit depressed because it's so sad. And they say it doesn't help anything and it's so absurd. Small, innocent children are killed in war and innocent citizens are killed. It's so meaningless and people get so depressed. But according to Martinus' cosmology, it's never by chance. It lies in the karma, who is killed and who is not killed. And those who are killed, they need this experience to develop more and more compassion. And life is teaching and educating the living beings. We are in the school of life. The physical world is the school of life. The physical world is the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the beginning of the real human kingdom. And there is macrocosmic forces, the universe, the life or God, are controlling everything that takes place on planet Earth. And people, they are educated and taught, just like pupils in a school, they are also educated and taught different lessons. Then we are also taught some lessons here in this school of life, and that is, people who can go to war shall also experience the war. And then sometimes when I look on the wars in television, I say to myself in my back head, it is interesting to see how God create perfect human beings. Because you shall not only look at the sufferings in the war, that's terrible, but you should know that these sufferings, all these sufferings have a result. They produce something. The suffering is not in vain. The result of the sufferings is that now you feel for people who are in sufferings. You develop your feelings. You develop your compassion. If you really had big problems yourself, afterwards you can feel very much with people who are in the same situation. So in a way, the result of wars are more compassion and love. So for that reason, the wars are needed. There's a lot of people who are thinking, oh, we have to pray to stop the World War III. We have to meditate in order to stop World War III. But that is because people think that they can improve the world by prayer, or they think that they can improve other people by prayer. But animals, plants, human beings, they are on different levels in the evolution. You are at your own level in evolution, because this is the sum, the product of all you have experienced in your eternal past. You are just simply the product of your eternal past, and you cannot do it any better. Then if you are praying in order to improve the world, that means you are praying to improve the other people. And that means you are praying for them to advance to higher levels in the evolution. But you cannot turn a lion into a sheep or peace by praying. You cannot turn a tiger into an ape. You cannot turn an ape into a human being by prayer. I even know parents, they would like their children to be more developed, and they are praying and praying for their children. But the children have to make their own experiences. The tigers and the lions, they have to make their own experience. You cannot make people grow in their personal evolution. You cannot change the step in evolution of other people through prayer. But of course, Martinus recommends prayer. It's a good thing to pray for people, and you can especially pray a lot for people who are in sufferings. You cannot change their situation, maybe. You cannot change their fate, but through prayer you can give them inspiration and force, and sometimes they can take their sufferings without getting depressed or without committing suicide, because you can send energy and love and sympathy to them. And for that reason, meditation and prayer is a good thing, but there is limits for what you can pray for. And that is also explained in Martinus' little book, The Mystery of Prayer. It has been so popular here in Croatia, I've heard it's already sold out. But this is a book about prayer as science. It shows what is possible with prayer and what is not possible with prayer. And it is not possible to change the step in evolution of other living beings. You can't do that. But you can pray for them so that they get energy and force and power. And so Martinus, he could see that there would come some wars, but he would also see, without being a prophet, that when there is so many people who are eating meat, when there is so many people who goes into arms race, for example, in the United States, the majority of the population votes for the people should be allowed to have guns in their own home. The majority wants death penalty. The majority wants to go to war to kill the terrorists and so on. So you can see it is so far away from the Christ attitude. So and they call them Christians, that means they have not understood Christianity. So what should happen in order to let them pass on in their evolution? They have to experience the consequences of their consciousness and their way of acting. And also the Muslims with their holy war and so on, and they think they can solve the solution by going to war. When people have such attitudes and they don't understand from their humane religion that they should stop to fight, they have the permission to fight as much as they want. All human beings, they are allowed to make as much war, as much fighting. And there will be fighting on this planet Earth as long as people want to fight. Maybe one day there's only 2 men left who want to fight. And then you tell them, you have to stop fighting. They cannot understand it. How shall you solve the situation? They have the permission to fight somewhat more. And when they have had enough, beaten up enough times, eventually they will also stop fighting. But it is a question of making experiences. And then, of course, Martinus says we could have had wars on planet Earth for centuries and centuries and centuries. But he predicts that there will come some huge wars that would be much, much bigger than the wars of World War I and World War II. But it has that advantage. Then it will go a little bit faster. And I guess he says we can have very big wars within the next 100 years. And maybe approximately the next 500 years there could be some wars on planet Earth. But he says, after a war, there is so much animal consciousness that would disappear. There is so many people, they don't want to go to war anymore. And at a certain time, when after the big wars, there will be no more wars on this planet Earth. And if there are people who still want to have wars, but they cannot have wars on this planet, actually, they will have to incarnate on other planets where they can get the wars because they cannot. So Martinus says after these 2 coming world wars, it is as if our planet will be lifted up to a higher Christ plane. The consciousness of the planet Earth will really be cleansed. There is so much killing instinct and war instinct that will be cleansed out. So of course it's very depressing. It's terrible with all the wars. But it is important to understand that it is a part of God's creation. I also talked about Martinus, Darwin, and intelligent design, that there is a plan and an idea behind the whole evolution. And it is also a part of the evolution that God is teaching human beings not to make war through consequences of the war. It's not to take revenge or to be cruel. Nobody has to suffer more than that is necessary. And immediately, when you have understood, I shall not kill others, I cannot kill others, then you are protected by this spiritual law, that you are protected to the same degree as you are protecting others. And Martinus says, mankind is heading for a bright and light future. We are going to have such a wonderful future here on Earth. But we have still to cleanse somewhat of this animal consciousness. But the future will be so fantastic for human beings. The reason why it is so bad now is that we are in this materialistic stage in evolution. Martinus talks about 3 stages in evolution. There is one stage where you are believing blindly. You are very religious. You are fundamental religious. But in all religions, there is a moral. And for that reason, you will not have these bad wars and all that cruelty, because you are blindly believing in the religions. But then the intelligence develops and develops and develops. And then you find the religions are naive, and you turn into a materialist. And you can make guns and bombs. You can even make atomic bombs. And that is very dangerous, because now you don't believe in the religions. That means you have almost kind moral. You say, this atomic bomb can kill all people in a city with 100,000 inhabitants. This big bomb can kill all people in a city with 1 million people. Or this mega bomb can take out a city with 10 millions. I mean, where's the feelings? Where's the moral? They are talking about this totally technically, and some bombs have been thrown. I mean, it is almost devilish or almost devil consciousness, that you can talk about people's life in connection with the bombs. So the problem of our times is that we live in a period, in an epoch of a moral vacuum. I mean, it was totally logical for Stalin. He had some enemies. How shall I solve the problem? I just kill my enemies and the problem is solved. Hitler had some enemies. I can solve the problem. Just kill them and the problem is solved. And it's completely logical from a materialistic point of view. And if you believe in a one-life theory, it's the best solution. If you have any problem, just kill them and the problem is solved. But life is not like that. But after this, Martinus says, this fantastic intelligence will be used in the religious area. And then you will see the truth in the religions. Then you can make a science of the religions. You can make a spiritual science. And that will provoke or produce a much higher moral. So we will reach a much higher moral in the future. Actually, a moral that is based on logic, understanding, science, and of course also of feelings and love. But now we are in this period of Armageddon or doomsday or this terrible period. And this is because we are intelligent animals. We are so egoistic and we can fight like animals. But we have got the human intelligence so we can produce bombs. So it's a very dangerous cocktail. We have human intelligence, but we have also animal instincts. But after these wars, much of this animal mentality will be cleansed out. And then the intelligence will be used. Also not, how can I make big business? The intelligence will be used, how can I best help my fellow beings? How can I use my intelligence to produce a good, peaceful, harmonious world? How can I use my intelligence to create just conditions for all? How can I how can I see that all the resources of the planet Earth is divided in a just way, so the intelligence will be used in the service of love and humanity in the future. But now this is dangerous, and for that reason it's the most killing epoch of the whole planet, the history of the planet Earth. Many people argue that evolution is going backwards because wars are getting worse and worse. But in a way, evolution is advancing all the time. We were once egoistic animals and we are going to be lovable human beings. But it's just this special transition state. But we will learn quite a lot from it. And after these wars, Martinus is talking about that we will create a real world state. Not only the United Nations of the planet, but we'd also turn the whole planet into one state, into one nation, not only the United Nations, but there will only be one nation, one state. And he said after World War I, we had the League of Nations. The World War I was so terrible, so they tried to make a League of Nations to avoid wars in the future. And also, just after World War II, there was the United Nations. They also tried to make a union of nations to avoid wars in the future. And of course, immediately after World War III, there will be a new attempt that will be better than the League of Nations and United Nations. And Martinus says the first step towards the world state, we will see that in 100 years. And that means that all these peace negotiations will go so far that all nations on the planet Earth will agree on no single nation has the right to have its proper army. Only the United Nations has a right to have an army. And Martinus called that the world policy. So you also have a police here, so you don't have to have guns in your own home. If there's some criminals, you shall call the police and the police shall come and help you. So in the same way, in a civilized society, we have a police. But the planet Earth with all the different countries are very uncivilized. It's just like Stone Age people. The nations are behaving towards each other as people are behaving in Stone Age. One country is attacking another country. That's so uncivilized. So what the different nations of the planet Earth should be so civilized that they're not attacking each other. But then and we are afraid that they will attack us. It doesn't matter. Then you should just call the world police so they should protect us. So that would be a big advance. But now we're also talking about European Union and other unions. Mankind has to train in international cooperation. And you can say a human being can be egoistic and a human being can be altruistic. In the same way, one country can be very nationalistic, but a country can also be very international. So if a country is very nationalistic, in a way it is like an egoistic human being. And if there is a country that is very international, it's more like a human being that is very altruistic. So we will have a lot of training in international, and in the future there will be computers that would calculate. It will be a big science to calculate how all the resources of planet Earth will be divided in a just way. For example, there can be a little country, Kuwait, only 2 million people, there's a lot of oil beneath, or even Denmark has found some oil, or Norway. If it's under our Earth, it's our oil, and then we get very rich, and then there are other people on other parts of the planet Earth that is very poor. That is unjust. And Martinus said, if it had been possible for international companies to take monopoly on sunshine and fresh air, you would have had to pay to get some sunshine and pay to get some oxygen. But they have not succeeded to take the monopoly. But it's no difference. Oxygen and sunshine is free for all world citizens. In the same way, iron and oil should also belong to all world citizens. So that is also a kind of the new world order. And Martinus says, as long as we have private possession, we can have very rich people, and then we can have very poor people. Then we will live in an unjust world. So Martinus, he foresees that all private capital will disappear in the future. So there will only be one thing that can own the resources, and that is the world state, and that is all living beings on the planet Earth. And when a new child is born, it is born owner of all the things that exist on this planet Earth, just like all other children. So, and Martinus says, in the future, there will be no private possession and there will be no money. You will only have your life passport. It is a kind of like a modern credit card. The only value we have, that is the human labor force. That is the value that we have. And when you have worked 1 hour, you will have 1 hour put onto your life account. That means that you cannot pay with the value of other people's work. But today, you can say, if you are working 35 or 40 hours per week the whole life, then you have produced one man's life work. But if you are good at business, you can become rich, maybe as Bill Gates or another millionaire. Then one single person can get the value of 10 men's life work, 100 men's life work. I guess Bill Gates, maybe he has got the value of 100 million people's life work or 10 million's life. Is that just? That one single person can just simply steal the value of 1 million people's life's work? It's so unjust. So there must be some kind of system that can avoid that you can just simply take the value of other people's life work. For example, if this table could be produced by working 10 hours, if I was a good businessman, I would just sell the table for the value of 20 labor hours. Then I had got the value of 10 labor hours without producing anything. Then somewhere in the system, there have been a poor man, he has been working for 20 hours, but he's only paid for 10 hours. Because when I get a value without working for it, there is somebody out there who has worked without getting the value from his work. And Martinus says it's unavoidable as long as you have this private capital and you have the money system. So you should only have your own life account, your own life passport. And when you have worked, then Martinus thinks the machines and robots, they will do a lot of our work. And there's a lot of professions that would disappear with soldiers and police. Almost the whole business world will disappear. All this competing with banks and assurances. So there will only be one bank. That is the world state. There will only be one insurance company. Now there are tens of different companies that are having a big competition. They're wasting money on advertisements. In the future, it is a political decision. Everybody has the right to have a car, a computer, a television set or whatever. There will be no business. These products will go directly from the factory to the person who uses it. The whole business world will disappear, and there will be a big science to find out where shall we put the factories and where shall the wares go to. It will be planned so fantastic. In the future we will only have to work 2 hours per day because all these professions that are useless, they will disappear. And he predicts maybe you should only work 2 hours, 2 days per week. But this is then everybody has a work as a duty. That's a duty you should. And then you can pay with your life passport. There's also a lot of things that could be for free, to go to museums or go about train or libraries. All these kind of controlling tickets and selling tickets and controlling everything. Everything could be free. Everything, you have access to all the goods in the world state if you're just doing your duty. And that is not so much that is needed in the future. So Martinus is talking about this cosmic communism. And Martinus said the first and best communist on planet Earth, that was Jesus Christ. And communism is not communism if it's not democracy. So the Soviet type, that was not democracy. But the American democracy, that's not communism, because they are rich and wealthy people in the United States and many poor people. So that's also very unjust. So the American democracy is not communistic. So it's not true democracy. And the old communism was not true communism because it was not a democracy. And but this, you cannot. Many people ask Martinus, why don't you go into politics? You could change the world, Martinus. But he says, no, you cannot change the people by politics. They shall be mature for it. So the communist system was too early. People were not mature for it because they were still too egoistic. They preferred to work in their own garden instead of working in the collective. A Christ being would do all his work in the collective and finish it. And if there was some time left over, he would work in his own garden. Very many people, they didn't want to work in the collective, but they liked to work for themselves maybe. So that was just too early. But I think Martinus calls the New Testament for the evangelium of communism. So he connects communism sort of to Christianity, or he connects communism to the way Jesus behaved. Jesus says nobody has a bigger love than the one who would give his life for others. So I mean, you will have the true communist system when you want to serve the others. You don't want to exploit the others. You would feel very bad and have bad consciousness if you knew that you had abused the others. You would feel much better if you are helping the others. So Martinus also say in the future, when there is some sports games, you are seeing who, if they should run 100 meter, there's a man, he's running very, very fast, he's coming to the goal, but he doesn't pass the goal line. He says to the others, please go first, please go first. And then there would be no competition anymore. And if you are going to have a negotiation about your salary, you would say, no, that's too much. No, my word is not worth so much. No, I would like to serve. I would rather prefer to be paid too little, because then I feel it good. Then I can feel I have given something. No, don't give me such a high salary. Then I would feel that I take some resources that I've done nothing for. No, I don't want it that way. So the communist system cannot come by revolution. It will come eventually by evolution. It can only come gradually. And you cannot teach people communism through theory. It shall grow from inside, from your own heart. And Martinus, he doesn't define Christianity as if you believe in the Orthodox religion, or you are Catholic or Protestant or Evangelist or Mormon or so on. He more defines Christianity as a way of behaving. If you behave like Jesus Christ, you are a Christian. So neighborly love, if it's a Hindu or Buddhist who is practicing neighborly love, this person is a Christian. Or even if there came a little alien or a green man from Mars, if he behaved like Jesus Christ and you've never heard about him, Martinus would call him a Christian because he practiced neighborly love. And in that way, to practice neighborly love, that is also what Martinus would call cosmic communism. And in the future, what will we do in all our free time? There will be so much time free. But I guess most people, they have something they would like to do I would love to play the piano. I would love to take lessons in drawings. I would like to study the history of Europe or philosophy. Most people, they have things they would love to do, but for some reason they don't have the time, they don't have the money and so on. But that will be no problem. Nowadays you could say you're sort of a salary slave. You have to do work even if you don't like your work. You go to work in order to get the money, to get food on the table, to get a place to live. But you will not feel as such a slave in the future. You will have so much free time, spare time. But Martinus describes it's not the meaning that you shall not do anything. Of course, if you're not doing anything, you're degenerating. But you should be able to culture your interest. If you're interested in reading the whole work of Martinus, 8,000 pages, you could just read as much as you want. If you want some teaching in piano playing, in drawings, in art, in music, in science, you could get all the teaching that you want. So there will be a kind of people's university or open university. You don't have to register to the university to take an education. Everybody who wants some cultural education can be taught and can be teaching. So this will be a fantastic future. And in the future, in the school, the children will not be taught according to their age. Already in kindergarten, the teachers will see what are the children interested in and where do they have their talents. So they will only be taught where they have talents and interests. And at that time, everybody will love to go to school because they're only taught in things they're interested in. And they will especially be taught where they have their talents. Today, if you are 7 years old, you have to be taught in that. And if you're 9 years old, you have to be taught in that. And for that reason, there's a lot of children that don't like to go to school. And of course, it's a beautiful socialistic thought. Everybody shall have the equal possibilities, and if they are giving the equal possibilities, they will be the same. But according to the principle of reincarnation, we are on different steps in evolution. We have different talents, and you shall take that into account when you are teaching in the future. If they have talents in this area, they are very, very good at math and atomic physics and so on. Of course, then they should have a teaching that is very interesting for them at their level. But then others, they are much more into music and drawings and art. Then of course they should have their teaching there. So it will be all will be very interested in their education. And everybody will work with his hobby. Nowadays people have a boring job and an interesting hobby. But in the future, people shall live in their hobby. Maybe there's some work that is not so pleasant. But then people will be so high developed just like Christ. Christ, he would prefer to wash the feet of his disciples. So even the boring work will be done by the most developed people because they would behave according to the Christ principle and they would do it with joy. Also, if there is a woman, she would like to educate her own children, then it would be written in her world passport that she had worked with education of children. So that would be her work that would be accepted. She would get her work would be accepted like that. Could also be a woman say, no, I don't want to educate my own children. They can go to kindergarten. I want to make another job. That's okay. Then it would be okay that she took another job. So it would also be free for people what kind of work they would like to do. But the general idea is that we shall all become very creative. We shall all become geniuses. We'll have the possibility to play and paint and be inventors and study science and so on. It'll be so fantastic. Everybody has the possibility to study and educate in whichever area he wants. And Martinus actually predicts that once in the future we'll become a genius in that area and in that area, and we'll almost become geniuses in all kinds of areas. And you can see that the world will totally change when they're trying. I talked about it in the lecture last night that there is animal instincts that makes you fight against others and take resources from your others. But when you train and practice in neighborly love, you get a new instinct, and that is the instinct of serving and helping other people. And you feel so happy when people are grateful to you. And nowadays, there are even some scientific research made on people who have been depressed. If they get into a program where they have to help other people. They have to go to sick people, or they have to go and help blind people. But they've really tried to construct a program. So each day you should help other people 5 times. And you have to take part of this program and do it several days and weeks and months. And it shows people, they really change. They really feel happy, and they get a life force and inspiration and so on. So science is finding out now, and people will find out themselves. You can become so happy if you forget about how can I become a millionaire. Most people today, they are materialistic, and they're interested in how can I get more money? How can I earn more money? How can I invest to get more money? What can I do in order to get more money? But this is egoistic, an animal tendency, and that will not give you any joy of life or life force. What will give you joy in life and life force? That is to help others and feel that they are grateful. And you can imagine how society will be when more and more people act like that, when the majority feel, I only feel good if I can help others. That would be a really evolution. And Martinus put it in a simple way. He said, my mission is to show that it pays to be good. It is profitable to be good. But today, materialistic people believe it pays to make good investments. It pays to take a higher salary. It pays to become more rich. That is the general thought of the materialist. And that's a reason why we live in such a miserable world. Because there are some people who are so enormously rich that the others are left very poor. Even today, if we could divide all the resources equally, we would be very rich people, all of us, if we could divide it in a just way. So now time is running. I've almost been speaking for 1 hour, so I'll just finish by this, that, there is some big problems in the world situation, but they are necessary, and mankind will learn a lot from it. It's unavoidable. And it's very painful to get through, but the result is very positive. The consciousness of the individual human beings will be cleansed. The consciousness of planet Earth will be cleansed. And that means the planet Earth will be much more lovable, much more much more humane. So we are really heading for a fantastic, bright and light future. And Martinus says, we cannot imagine what a wonderful future we have in front of us. It's not that we are going to escape to paradise. We shall take paradise down on earth, and it will be possible for human beings to create a real physical paradise here on planet Earth. So taking that into account, maybe we can get through all these coming problems, because they are really producing a paradise here on earth. Yes, thank you for the attention.